Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome our guests this evening. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor McGuinness, that this meeting be open at 7 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Corbett, that the agenda presented to council and dated the 25th day of February 2025 be adopted as presented. All in favor?
I have just a comment. Sorry. I just want to, we had a closed session earlier, so I just want to say that that was regarding training by the Integrity Commissioner for council.
Okay, all in favor of this? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Hearing none, I'll move forward. Adoption of previous minutes. Moved by Councillor McGuinness, second by Councillor Featherstone, that the minutes of the regular council meeting of February the 11th, 2025 be adopted or circulated. All in favor? Carried. Presentations and delegations. None for this
No,
session.
none for this evening.
Then we have, has anyone put forward for the question period?
Yes, I'm gonna do the question.
I'm sorry, I can't read that far.
So we shouldn't.
I can't read what it says, I'm sorry.
I would like to know what bylaw number 2025-12 is about, because I couldn't get any information. And that was covered in the last meeting. I just figured we need to know what these things are.
Well, here's not the time to ask. You come
I'm
to
not
the
asking, I'm
office.
just suggesting that you make sure we understand what you're voting and what bylaw you're bringing into our township for our people.
Okay,
Not just last one. No,
sorry, there is a process that you have to follow to be able to speak
I'm
on
not
the
speaking. It's just a
agenda.
recommendation. That's all. It's a recommendation. Please explain when you're voting on bylaws. They seem pretty cryptic. Numbers mean nothing to me.
Well, it's up to the public to educate themselves and find out what it's about.
I went surfing, I act 3 meetings and.
I'm sorry, but we'll look that up after the meeting if you wish, but you're just not on the agenda,
I know,
so,
I know.
okay.
I'm just trying to determine how we find it.
Okay, next we have staff reports. Report from the planning administrator, Rutherglen Property Analysis, Steel Rails Nonprofit Organization request. So are you prepared to give a report now, or?
I can talk you through it. Yep, it's available on the agenda package for anyone that wants to see it. Yeah, so basically the Steel Rails organization, for anyone that doesn't know, is it's now a non-profit organization. It's incorporated. They've been going at it a few years. They've been developing lots of archives, artifacts, really trying to uncover and understand what is the heritage of Bonnfield and how we can celebrate that moving forward. So some of the projects they've initiated over the years include the creation of a memorial and or monument, perhaps in the form of a replica of the first spike, really embellishing what was the first rail spike known to have been driven into the rail bed as part of the Canadian Pacific National Rail Network. Second, they're interested in potentially developing a new modern multi-purpose interactive museum, which could be used to house these various artifacts celebrating the township of Bonnfield. And Longer term, potentially, there's a proposal to introduce a new heritage kind of railway, steam railway attraction, which would connect various locations along the line and bring together different partners. So what I was asked to do was, because the Steel Rails organization is interested in a couple of different general locations in the hamlet of Rutherglen, was to do an evaluation of those to kind of see who owns the land, could it be assembled, is there a space, lot coverage, all those kind of planning issues. So I did a bit of a deep dive, and the report is in the package to say before you. Before I return to kind of those two options, which are potentially Rutherglen Park, as there's land to the west of the hamlet of Rutherglen, or Rutherglen Line, which lands just the immediate south of the railway track, near where the railway crossing is. But there's been some conversations about potentially the design of a building. So traditionally, some of you may have seen the CPR railway stations with a kind of vernacular roof to it, the traditional style. There's certainly interest among the committee in bringing something like that back. There's potential, but it's not always favorable to do that kind of design, because usually it would coexist next to a railway station where the overhang would also serve as a platform. So some discussions are kind of ongoing around what would be the actual building, what would it look like, how modern would it be, etc. But crucially, what functions is it proposed to serve? And that's what the building should be designed around. And the reason I bring that up is because there's two different locations. One is immediately trackside and the other one is not. So basically, to kind of try and understand what development potential there is here, we based it on the, it could say around 2,000 square feet or potentially up to 4,000 square feet of floor space. So we did some calculations to work out how many people would that assembly-wise could occupy that building, what would be the number of parking spaces, if there was a coach spaces coming in, which we hope, right, to increase that visitor attraction, what kind of area is required. So some of the calculations are shown in the report. To cut a long story short, the option that we kind of went for, or is a preferred option for a council to consider, is option one, which is a piece of land currently owned fully by the township, which adjoins the Anglican Church next to, we're forming part of Rutherglen Park. So that would be a piece of land approximate of about 2.62 acres or 1.06 hectares, which could be set aside, rezoned as necessary to accommodate a museum as and when any funding is obtained in order to pay for that. Some limitations. Part of the land is developable. There's an area, there's a water course kind of runs through, so there's potentially the development constraint areas, some areas where setbacks would need to be maintained to kind of preserve that, prevent any erosion or just developing in undevelopable land. Also, it's next to the Highway 17, so even though it's assumed that access could be brought off Gagne Road, Park Street and Trunk Road, potentially subject to consultation, we might be able to bring in a new access off Highway 17 itself, so that the facility there would function more as a rest stop, which would certainly benefit that museum, passing footfall, people stopping for coffee, use the washrooms, whatever. So when we evaluated the policies, just looking at this, we could see it was a much more complex picture in relation to option two, that's the lands to the south of the railway land, primarily because not all the land is under the township's ownership, but also there's a special zone that exists there. There's certain provisions that are tied up in that special zone. Part of it's vacant residential land. And so it's a mixed zoning, and it would require an official plan amendment, zoning amendment, and various other kind of mitigation measures, if you like, to make the development acceptable on that property. So in terms of option one, like I say, the policy context for that is a little bit more straightforward. It still requires to do some work and evaluation with various consultees, North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, the MTO, also the Canadian Pacific Railway, to kind of understand, you know, what, if any, requirements they might have in terms of the integration of those two sites, if you like, and whether a steam railway is a feasible proposition in the long term. So just on some recommendations, I can go more into policy if people wish, but not everybody wants to hear that. So what we're saying is the next steps would be It's having a review of the disposal of land bylaw that we have. So council would have an option here of, if you were not looking to sell that piece of land off, but wanted to retain ownership of that, but still work with them as a partner within the community, there's the option of a long-term lease. So you could do that for up to 20 years, and then you have the option of renewing that on a 20-year consecutive basis. So that is presented as a possible option there. A clause that could be added would be that the land, including any future buildings and structures be placed on the property, would always be retained for community and or tourism generating uses that are compatible with location on the edge of Rutherglen Park. And then on to some just kind of next steps, really, if council were minded to offer this on a lease or sale basis, would be to first of all engage the Steel Rails Committee a bit more. So I do sit as kind of an ex officio advisor on that committee, so I can certainly talk to them more about what are their actual proposals, what is the floor space, what would this building look like, so we can get some schematics underway to form the basis of a consultation with all those partners that I mentioned. If we can get to that stage, then obviously, you know, one of those partners would be the North Bay Matter Conservation Authority, and we need to determine how the preferred location of any on-site sewage systems and wells would be required in order to support that development. If that can be kind of completed, we'd certainly want to look with the committee at a more detailed business plan. So this should really, among other matters, evaluate comparable facilities in Northern Ontario, plus other applicable locations, describe in full detail the spatial components, the programming, the revenue streams which would contribute to financial sustainability of the museum and organization. And the business plan should consider the viability of the proposed use with or without the addition of a steam railway tourism attraction. Next step would therefore be to consult more at large with the CPR and MTO, as I mentioned, to kind of really work out what would be the detailed requirements on their end to implement that development. And if all of that can be addressed, then obviously we proceed with the legal matters on the instruction of council and our legal counsel to hopefully potentially bring that forward as a proposal. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think the report does have, a recommendation suggesting that the option one is the preferred choice. Because we don't have a business plan, we don't know the outcome. The Steel Rails Committee is looking for agreement in principle only at this point. So I don't think we can determine at this point whether the sale of the land or the lease of the land is the most viable option for the Steel Rails Committee or the organization. So it's just whether in principle, and then there, the recommendation does say that, you know, the final transfer, whatever that might be, whether it's the sale or the lease, would be done once there is the feasible business plan that shows that it will be operating, you know, on its own merit without municipal funds, and that they do have the funding to actually build the museum itself.
Thank you. Any more comments? Okay.
Thank you for the report. It's very thorough and it's a good report. So I agree. I think that it's important that the municipality move forward with something in principle. I think you're right. In the next steps would be to engage the Steel Rails organization to see if what the recommended piece of property will suit the potential build. And additionally, for transparency, I would want to work with the Steel Rail Committee to, I mean, obviously we're gonna have to scope some of this because we're just notionally saying, so whether it's, do we provide a 2-year window for that organization? We will provide, you know, a notional approval for up to 24 months to allow them to get their feet under them, to go find their approvals of the grants. And so not only the money to build the building, but perhaps, you know, the stipulation of how's your operating going to work? Do you have, you know, a year's worth of operating in the bank before you open? You know, we can talk to them about what some of those parameters are. And I lean to the lease idea as opposed to the purchase, because as soon as that piece of property is no longer in possession of the municipality, we lose the ability. So if this is a great success, it'll be a conversation that is moot. But if it's for some reason falters, I think it's important that we have the ability to take back that piece of property and not let it turn into being derelict because it's owned by a not-for-profit corporation, which may or may not be active in the future. So I think it's important that the municipality protect its interests in retaining the ownership of that property. So.
Yes, this is an excellent report. Thank you. It's very detailed and really lays out, so clearly a lot of work went into this. I agree with Councillor Corbett that, you know, in principle, I really would like this to succeed. However, I feel that there's not enough information yet, and they provided a very aspirational document with some numbers, but and I think that moving forward, if they are going to apply for grants or other funding, the numbers will actually have to be validated. So, and you know, I'm looking forward to them succeeding in that area. So I think that in principle, I absolutely support. Again, I don't know what it looks like, if it's a lease or, but I think those details we can hammer out much later.
Yeah, very good report, Simon. The only thing so do we have a bylaw for selling our lands?
Yes, so every municipality has to have a disposal.
So what does that look like for selling or leasing land?
So if the municipality is going to dispose of any of the land, then there is a process. So at current market value, you would take it, you would hire an appraiser to come out. The appraiser would tell you what the value of the land is, and then that's what you would put it on the market for. So.
And if we went as a lease?
It's the same. So there would be a study done on what the value of a lease would be.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, again, in principle, I'm in favor of trying. I think to Councillor Corbett's suggestion of 2 years, it would take even longer than that. Like some of these grants only open windows for 6 weeks once a year, and you know, by the time they get their ducks in a row to even apply, you know, 5 years might be a little bit more realistic for them. Chances are we're not doing anything with that land either. I also like the lease suggestion to retain assets, so that if it unfortunately doesn't work out for whatever reason, 10 or 15 years down the road, that we still have that land.
Thank you. Well, I'll read the motion, but I believe in here where it refers to the purchase, if I could put lease there on the motion.
Maybe lease or purchase,
Yeah.
because we haven't decided yet if that's okay. Lease or purchase, so leave our options open.
Leave the option
Yeah, so
open.
keep both of them in, so if, you know, we can determine at another date once, again, we just want to give them a letter to say, yes, the municipality supports them, but we really don't know what
What
you
it
know,
looks like,
what it looks like.
lease
So,
or purchase.
yeah, so we could maybe leave it open if that's, like, you know. You've got-
I would just like to put purchase lease, and then it's one way or the other.
Correct,
But
yes,
yeah.
yes,
that's all I wanted to do.
yes.
So in the third paragraph of the motion, it does speak to that. Whether it's the transfer of the land or the lease. of
It
the
says
property,
transfer or lease, but on the first one, it says for the purchase.
because that was their request. They came to council to request.
So you don't want that
purchase.
in then.
We're just
I took it out.
setting the background.
Yeah,
Moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor Corbett, that council accepts this report as a property analysis regarding the Steel Rails organization request to purchase municipal land for the construction of a museum, and further that council agrees in principle that option 1 regarding the proposed land at Rutherglen Park is the preferred option to allow the Steel Rails organization to construct a museum, and further that prior to any final report for the transfer or the lease of said property be accompanied by a detailed and comprehensive business plan along with the confirmed funding indicating a positive feasibility for the project without municipal funds.
So just one more question, if I could, your worship. And it's, should we be putting in the scope and, whether it's 2 years or 5 years, I'm fine either way, like work with the committee to see what they feel, but should we be scoping this resolution to put a time limit on it that we're not tying this piece of property up in perpetuity for like this resolution? It would be forever.
Right.
Until
It
there's,
would be appropriate to add,
so
yes.
I'm,
Agrees in, perhaps if the council agrees in principle that option one, regarding the proposed land is the preferred option with a 5-year review, a 5-year.
Let's do it 2 years.
yeah, it's really just to allow them enough time to get their grants in order to make their business case, all of that. So maybe 24 months isn't enough and maybe it's 36 months.
But you wouldn't want to have them start fundraising and say, oh, your time is up now. You haven't come with
Yeah.
the fund.
No, but if we did a review, right? So we could review in 24 months where they're at and then extend,
Right,
right?
right.
Then we could extend.
Okay. Change it however you want.
I know it's out of place here, but what about the Agrodome? Can we not put it there? Then we can clean up the Agrodome.
You don't know.
And then cleans up on. Right.
then just
which
with-
will be reviewed within.
24 months.
Progress. Within 24 months, we have a thing. Which will be reviewed for progress for a for progress.
Is that jet lag kicking in?
No, it's just
How about
tricky.
which will have a progress.
Could you say to
review?
follow the progress, to follow?
Which will
Which
be
will
reviewed
have
for
a-
project progress within 24 months. It's a little
Yeah.
clunky, but I think it gets the
Yes.
point.
Do you want me to go, I'll go back to the third paragraph.
Sure.
Further, that prior to any final report for the transfer or the lease of said property be accompanied by a detailed and comprehensive business plan along with confirmed funding indicating a positive feasibility for the project without municipal funds, which will be reviewed for project progress within 24 months. All in favor? Carried. Okay, where are we next? And next we have adoption of committee minutes and motions. And it looks like the corporate services, none. Emergency Services Committee, none for this session. Planning Advisory Committee, none for this session. Recreation Committee, none for this session. Police Services Board, none for this session. Next, we have items for council discussion. And this one is the 21st Annual Bonfield and District Lions Club ATV Run. We've received a letter from the Lions requesting assistance from the Bonfield Fire Department's first response team. And they usually ask to use our public works area as well, yes.
They do that.
So then we have a motion for that.
And they're well, they also mentioned the fire department.
Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor McGuinness. Whereas the Bonfield and District Lions Club is requesting the use of the Township Public Works garage site for overflow parking and any available picnic tables for their 21st annual ATV fundraiser and poker run, May 10th, 2025. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of these requests and refers them to the Public Works Department. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next one we have is the public conduct policy. I guess I'll read the motion to discuss it. Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Featherstone. The Council for the Township of Bonfield hereby adopts the public conduct policy as presented, and that the policy be implemented immediately. Any comments?
It's a great report, and I think that again, at the conference, there were 2 sessions sort of regarding this issue about keeping our staff safe, and just the and I just like to say that we did just come out of an integrity commissioner training, so we are trying to do our due diligence as counselors, and we have had human rights training for all of our staff as well over the last week. So no, I fully support this.
Okay, next, Councillor Corbett.
Yeah, no, I think it's an important piece of work that council is undertaking to ensure that our staff that are safe and has a respectful work environment, as well as just ensuring that, as we see a larger percentage of a population, not just here in Bonfield, but I'm talking, kind of more globally, seems to be taking a more scathing view of public life. I think it's important that we ensure that everyone is doing it so respectfully and not overstepping. So.
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, no, just that I think it will help our staff at least even feel safe too while they're working. I mean, a lot of times they're working here by themselves or in low numbers and working long hours. So anything that helps them and puts their mind at ease, and I'm all for it.
Councillor McGinnis.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all about the staff and making them feel safe.
Okay. Well, not to disappoint anybody and not to offend anybody, but I am not in favor of that policy exactly the way it is. And maybe we could discuss it, because we just received the policy on the weekend. And some of that, I find it's, I just find it difficult to put that out to our taxpayers, especially the part of the complaint form, and it sets out what the complaints are, and it even indicates, is there drugs, is there alcohol? I don't think that should be up to our staff to determine that in a complaint form. I would like to discuss this further. However, if you wish to vote on it, I will vote on it, but I'm not disrespecting anybody, but that's my opinion, and I do have a right to an opinion, and that's my opinion at this point. So I do not support that in its entirety, and I would like for council to review it more closely than put that in place right now. And that's just my opinion, and council can do whatever they wish with it.
So do you have specific changes that you would like to see that right now?
Well,
or do you want to review it?
I would like to discuss it. We could even discuss it in a corporate services meeting. I would like to go over it more closely. But if you wish to go ahead with it now, that's council's prerogative. But I will vote against it, and that's not to offend anybody. But I think I would like to know how many other small municipalities have a policy like that. where was this developed? We didn't just develop that overnight. Was this developed in a larger policy, in a larger municipality? And before I would like to go further with it, I would like to know how many municipalities, the same size as our municipalities, has a policy in place like that. So,
Sorry,
do you want to vote on it?
if you can point me quickly, I'm just trying to find the example that you,
Here.
yeah, what is the number? Oh, it's in the complaint, I'm sorry.
So the category of incident where it says verbal abuse, use of drugs or alcohol, is that the part there? or-
Well, that part for sure,
Right,
because I don't think, and we have, at this point, we have the CAO determining this. I don't like the policy, and I'm being honest, and I think if I was out there just as a taxpayer, I might be offended.
Sorry if I could.
Sure.
So, fair enough. I'd hope to do this with some haste because we are looking at an increased level of, again, not just here, but across need to ensure that our staff are treated respectfully and are safe. But I am curious to have more of a conversation with you just to figure out where it is your specific concerns are. So I am comfortable to say that we can defer to our next corporate services meeting so that we can better understand your
Sure,
concerns and then bring
that's something pretty big to just come in here, and we're putting this in place when it comes to the people contacting the office. And I agree, I don't think you should be disrespectful. Nobody should be disrespectful to other people. They should appreciate the staff if they have questions. And then sometimes one person will maybe create dissension between two people. I would just like to look at that, and that's a policy that I'm not comfortable in putting in place for our township. It seems to me it's closing more doors. And we came in here saying we're going to open doors. And this is, I'm speaking, I just have to tell you, January the 1st this year, I made a New Year's resolution to myself. When I go anywhere and I have an opinion, I'm going to express it. And that's not to offend people. That's just something that I decided this year. So that I'm not comfortable with it. Ordinarily, I might have walked away and said, oh, I'm not gonna say anything. It's okay. And it's not okay because I don't like it.
so I'm in favor of taking it to corporate as well.
Okay.
But if I could just maybe ask the CAO to bring back the information about how many townships you looked at, because I'm, and I know that there are many townships that are adopting this again. So if you could maybe bring back your research information, that would be great.
I can appreciate that,
Yeah.
but like I said, it seemed like a bit much when I first looked at it.
Yeah, and so the corporate service meeting, like you'll bring your concerns, like you'll have,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
can, yeah,
specific
perfect,
things.
yeah, great.
Okay, so you're ready to defer it?
Yep.
Or do you want to vote on it?
Well, there's no sense voting on it because you guys got 3, so.
That's true. Fair point.
Okay, we're going to defer it. Okay,
Still got to vote to defer it. You still have to vote to defer it.
oh, okay. Moved by Councillor Corbett, second by Councillor Featherstone. The council for the Township of Bonfield hereby adopts the public conduct policy as presented, and that the policy be implemented immediately.
And then say
And then
deferred.
deferred, and we'll vote on the deferred. yeah.
Defer? So I got
Yep.
4 deferred now, okay. Okay, next we have, the Bondfield Medical Center memorandum of understanding in terms of reference. Moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor McGinnis, that the council for the township of Bondfield receives the Bondfield Medical Center memorandum of understanding and terms and conditions for review, and that the documents be shared with the Bondfield Medical Center Committee for further review. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We have correspondence. And the next, that's the Ombudsman of Ontario for the Township of Bondfield, notice of investigation, and that's only, we just have to accept this correspondence. And closed session, none. And next we have the confirmatory bylaw.
Sorry, your worship, you have to go back to the motion to accept the correspondence.
Oh, okay. I just have to see where where did the next page go on the back? Oh, that's the memorandum, that's here it is. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Clark, that council receives the correspondence circulated with the agenda of February 25th, 2025. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have, there's no closed session. Next, we have confirmatory bylaw moved by Councillor Corbett, second by Councillor McInnes, that the council for the township of Bondfield hereby adopts bylaw 2025-15 to confirm the proceedings of council from February the 11th, 2025 to February 25th, 2025, as presented and is considered read 3 times and past this 25th day of February 2025. All in favor? Carried. And does anybody have the time?
It is 7:37.
7:37. Okay, next we have the adjournment. Moved by Councillor McGinnis, seconded by Councillor Featherstone, that this meeting be adjourned at 7:37 p.m. All in favor? Carried. And I'd like to say meeting adjourned and council closed.